Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'm Archit Seshadri. For the next 2 hours, we'll decode the factors that dictate dynasty politics in India and around the world. We have a lineup of guests from around the globe to dissect the dynasties that have carried on some of the legacies from the world's mass leaders. First up, the southern state of Tamil Nadu and what has happened there. Let's give you a breakdown of the coverage. Tamil Nadu has a new chief minister now, just 2 months after the death of former chief minister Jayalalitha died back in December. Paneerselvam then resigned from his post today, making room for AIADMK General Secretary Shashikala to take over the reins. This according to the party's social media Twitter accounts. Shashikala is expected to take over power this Thursday, where she'll be sworn in on the 9th of February. Shashikala was elected as the legislative party heart by the AIADMK party. This after she had a meeting with cabinet members as well as senior party leaders. Thus, she fulfilled the demands of a section of the party that was divided and believed that it was unwise to have two different power centers in the state of Tamil Nadu. Shashikala also flashed the victory sign as she came out of the headquarters. You can take a look right there in Chennai at the headquarters as she was elected the party head. She is known formally as Chinnamma. She's vowed to work for the welfare of the people of Tamil Nadu and has followed the principles of her close friend Amma, or Jayalalitha. Shashikala is a close friend of Jayalalitha. Paneerselvam told her to take charge of the party last December after Jayalalitha's death. So reports say that Shashikala will take the oath, as we mentioned, later on this week. All of this after senior leaders appointed her. So quite a big discussion as the state of Tamil Nadu goes into a bit of a political chaos. Who will be the leader? What will happen in terms of the direction? Shashikala will be the third chief minister of the state of Tamil Nadu, just after Jayalalitha and Janaki Ramachandran. Now, another interesting equation that is emerging with all of this discussion is the niece, Deepa Jayakumar, who's now coming into the picture. She is the niece of former Chief Minister Jayalalitha, who's been quite absconding for the last few months and now has sort of emerged in the woodworks. Deepa is now saying she is the rightful heir of the Chief Minister who died last year. Just weeks ago, the disgruntled AIADMK members launched a forum in the district of Deepa, who is talking about perhaps starting her own political party. So quite a bit of a shakeup happening there in Tamil Nadu. WION's correspondent Ramesh Ramachandran spoke exclusively to Deepa Jayakumar just a short while back. Let's listen into that interview.
Okay, I'm now joined by Ms. Deepa Jayakumar, the niece of the late Tamil Nadu Chief Minister J. Jayalalitha. Let me go straight across to her to know more about her thoughts on her political future. Ms. Jayakumar, thank you for speaking to WION. Clearly, there seems to be a battle royale taking place in Chennai this evening between you, as Deepamma, as your supporters call you, and Chinnamma, Ms. Shashikala. So, where does this battle go from here?
I wouldn't call it a battle. This is a cry against something that shouldn't be happening, actually. Because the people had the faith and trust in Madam Jayalalitha and not on anyone else. That is what is happening here. The people have not voted her in. That is my first and foremost, whatever you call it. That's what I'm trying to be, emphasizing on. The people have not voted her in, and the people's trust, it was on Madam Jayalalitha. It wasn't on anyone else. And the third thing is that anyone to become a legislative leader, there should be a democratically elected candidate first and foremost. And in this case, it does not apply. I don't see why I shouldn't be in that role in the first place. If people want to see me in that role, I don't think there's anything wrong in it. But apart from all this, if at all I were to take up any position, it will be based on what the people want, and I would like to be elected as a democratically elected leader first, and then talk about this. Taking a political plunge is not the right thing to say, because in that sense I already have, I think. So the rest of the things that you said, as per my plan, a course of action that I had in mind, I'll follow that rigidly.
Thank you on that note. Thank you so much for speaking to WION. So there you have it, Ms. Jayakumar sharing her thoughts on her political future and making no bones about the fact that between now and the 24th of February, you can expect her to make a political announcement of some sort, possibly launching her own independent political outfit. In Chennai, Ramesh Ramachandran for WION.
And now let's start our discussion tonight as we get some perspective about how domestic dynasty succession works. Let's introduce our guest this hour. We have Mr. Quraishi. He is the former Chief Election Commissioner of India. We also have Shashi Tharoor. He is the leader of the Congress Party. Thank you so much for joining us. And of course, Padma Rao, our senior editor here at WION, to get some perspective on all of that's happening. Padma, I'm going to hand it over to you to start this discussion. Quite an interesting day in terms of Tamil Nadu politics.
Oh, absolutely. It's been a sensational day. And I'd like to start actually by asking, thank you very much, Mr. Quraishi, for coming on our show. What is the constitutionality of what's going on, Mr. Quraishi? You had a long innings as the election commissioner and a distinguished one. You know, this succession on the one side by a friend of the chief minister, of an elected chief minister, and on the other hand, a niece, a blood relative, also claiming succession.
You know, we keep hearing about dynastic politics in India, and lots of people seem to complain against it. But I strongly believe in the opinion of the people. If people vote for the dynasty, so be it. That is what they want. And secondly, it is within the constitution and the law. The constitution and the law provide that anybody can be appointed the prime minister, chief minister, or any minister, but he or she has to contest election within 6 months and get elected. Whether that's a good idea or not, that is debatable, and I personally feel it is not a good idea. Now, of course, it has worked pretty well for 70 years, but in these 6 months, suppose somebody after 6 months is rejected by the people. Now, will the questions and the decisions taken in the last 6 months will be considered legitimate? Surely they will be. But that in 6 months, I suppose you appoint me Prime Minister tomorrow, and in 6 months I play havoc with the country, and I may be thrown out eventually. Therefore, but so long as that is the constitutional arrangement, so be it. That's how it is, and it's fine.
And Mr. Quraishi, you know, sort of jumping on that, you know, when we had MGR, the former, he was an actor as well as became the chief minister. Same with Jayalalitha. But these two, we have Sasikala and Deepa, they don't really have as much of a fame or, you know, the fan following as Jayalalitha and MGR did. And now to see, you know, this sort of a battle between the heirs, family versus friend, how is that going to shape out for the vacuum in Tamil Nadu politics?
No, good that you remembered MGR. When MGR had to be succeeded, the way Jayalalitha came in, she also came almost, she was a dark horse. She came from nowhere and she made it, and she turned out to be such a popular and an effective leader. So you never know how it works out. And at the moment, the law is that the majority party decides to appoint anybody, X, Y, Z. And so that's it. That's the law. That's the law of the land.
I'd like to go to Dr. Shashi Tharoor, if I may. Dr. Shashi Tharoor, you are with the Congress Party, and when one speaks of dynastic succession, one automatically thinks of the Congress Party. After all, you have the super dynasty, the Gandhis, you know, all the way from Motilal Nehru, Jawaharlal Nehru, Indira Gandhi, Rajiv Gandhi, Sonia Gandhi, and so on and so forth. So, could you comment on that perception of, you know, dynastic succession? I mean, is it well within the framework of the law of the country, or are there grey areas somewhere?
No, I don't think there's a grey area. I think my friend Mr. Quraishi had it absolutely right. There may be an advantage to being a member of a particular family, but it then has to be ratified by the electorate. And I think the reason the dynasty has been such an effective political instrument in our democracy is because, for various reasons, whether it's name recognition, it's control of patronage networks, it's merely the glow or the coattails of your illustrious forebear, people have been able to follow the more famous person whom they're succeeding, and inevitably they have found vindication from the electorate. Remember, you speak of the Congress Party as if it has some sort of copyright on dynasty, but this is a widespread practice throughout our country. Right now in UP, we are seeing the former Chief Minister Mulayam Singh Yadav handing over the baton to Akhilesh Yadav. In Orissa, you've seen Naveen Patnaik succeeding Biju Patnaik in a party named for his father. In Andhra Pradesh, you've got Jagan Mohan Reddy heading the YSR Congress, named for his father. In the Shiv Sena in Maharashtra, the Thackeray family has witnessed a succession from Bal Thackeray to Uddhav Thackeray, and you've got Aditya Thackeray waiting in the wings, and any contestation is coming from a cousin, Raj Thackeray. So you're basically seeing, very frankly, a pattern that is widespread across the country. And what is interesting is that the question of dynasty heads in various directions. Mr. Quraishi didn't mention after MGR passed away, initially he was succeeded by his wife, his widow, Janaki Ramachandran. It was only Mrs. Ramachandran who got eclipsed by the rise, as it were, of Mr. MGR's intimate friend, Jayalalitha, who of course had a fan following of her own as a movie star. Now, when you're looking at all of these patterns, I think you accept that dynasty is part of Indian culture. You're seeing it with the sons of Bollywood film stars becoming Bollywood film stars. You're seeing the sons of dentists becoming dentists. You're seeing the sons of ophthalmologists becoming ophthalmologists. I mean, in which profession do we not see a dynasty? Even IAS officers' children seem to sit the exams and become IAS. So there is a tendency in our country to follow the family profession. It's not something of which one perhaps necessarily approves in democratic practice, but it is the culture. It is widespread. In fact, our caste system began that way, with people practicing the professions handed down to them by their parents.
Right.
I think it will be odd for it not to happen. As long as it's not the only way in which somebody can achieve political prominence, there's nothing wrong with it. It's one way of many. And indeed, as you know, the last two Congress prime ministers were not members of the Gandhi family. When you talked with Mr. Quraishi earlier about the unusual provision in the Constitution that allows somebody who's not been elected to any house of a legislature nonetheless to hold an office and then get it ratified by the electorate, while I understand his intellectual objections or his moral objections to the practice, the truth is that provision has actually saved India in a number of unexpected situations.
Right.
For example, the assassination of Rajiv Gandhi meant that the Congress party won an election when it didn't have a leader. And it had to turn to Mr. Narasimha Rao, who was not a candidate in the elections,
right,
and who then had to get himself elected later after having been named Prime Minister. So we had a mechanism that saved the nation a crisis at that time.
Sure, right. Mr. Tharoor, we appreciate that input. We're going to come back to you in just a moment, but now let's go to the ground to Chennai, where our correspondent Nishita Verandra has been covering this all day on the ground, getting the mood, talking to people there, and what's it like there. Let's we'll get to her in a minute, but let's now first go to Ramesh Ramachandran, who's also been there. We heard from him earlier. Ramesh, paint the scene for us. What is it like there in Chennai this evening?
Archit, without wasting any more time, I'd like to go straight to my guests here. To my right is Senthil, and to my left is Vasant and Kamaraj. Let's hear from them firsthand as to what they make of the hectic political developments that were witnessed here in Chennai this afternoon. Yeah. Senthil, and to you gentlemen as well, we saw two key developments take place. One, the resignation of Paneer Selvam as Chief Minister, followed by the elevation of Shashikala Natarajan as the leader of the legislature party, which means she is the Chief Minister in waiting of Tamil Nadu as of now. Also, we're standing outside Deepa Jayakumar's residence, and she claims that she is the rightful heir to Jayalalitha's legacy, and therefore she has to represent the people in some sort of, in one way or another. So what's your opinion? Are you happy with the developments so far?
No. Today is the black day for Tamil Nadu politics. Let me start with that.
Why?
Because she has buried dreams of Pradeshitalavar MGR and the late Chief Minister of Jayalalitha Madam. Because she has a different opinion to develop Tamil Nadu. She has come to elected CM by the back door. See, it's a democratic country. Anybody can become a Chief Minister, but you have to come through a proper channel.
Okay, fair enough. I get your point. Now let's move across to Vasant and Kamaraj. Vasant, with you first.
When the government run by Mr. Paneer Selvam is running smoothly, what is the necessity to change him immediately by someone who is not even a legislator? Because of someone's support. Why it's happening suddenly today? That's what we don't accept it.
And you, Kamaraj?
I think he's making fun out of politics.
And fueling the people of Tamil Nadu.
Yeah, there is no necessity, there is no necessity, there is no urgency, there is no requirement at all to become a CM, making her as a CM. Because
Right, fair enough. So there you heard it. The opinion is very divided here, and deep resentment at the elevation of Shashikala Natarajan as the Chief Minister in waiting, and also expectations from Deepa Jayakumar by virtue of her being the seen as the heir of the Jayalalitha's legacy. Archit?
Right. Thank you very much, Ramesh Ramachandran, senior correspondent from Chennai. I'm going to steer this discussion back to the studio where we have Dr. Quraishi, former Election Commissioner of India, and we have Dr. Shashi Tharoor, who's a Congress MP, also talking to us. Dr. Quraishi, just to come back to what Dr. Shashi Tharoor was saying, does this actually mean that, you know, in India it is acceptable to have this kind of succession as long as people want it, and as a stopgap method till the next scheduled elections? Is that, am I correct in assessing it that way?
Absolutely. Actually, what I said and what Mr. Tharoor said are exactly the same thing, except I said it briefly and he filled out the details. And he gave you very good examples. We can add many more. In fact, he talked of Rajiv Gandhi, and in fact, Rajiv Gandhi himself became, because when Indira Gandhi was assassinated, Rajiv Gandhi was elevated, and obviously he was not an MP, he was not even in politics, he had no intention of being in politics, and he became the Prime Minister, and later on he went on to win the election and became a one of the most remembered Prime Ministers. Therefore, this system, I said, has worked very well for India for the last 70 years. But now looking back at, theoretically, the ethical question which I raised, that for 6 months you give such big power to somebody who has not proved himself or herself, and maybe subsequently rejected by the government. But till there is a debate on that, and there is any rethink, the system is working well, and what is happening in Tamil Nadu is perfectly legal.
Right, we're going to dip very quickly back to Chennai to our correspondent Nishchita Virendra. Nishchita, hi, this is Padma Rao in the studio. What can you tell us from there? What's the atmosphere like? What's the mood on the ground this evening? It's been an eventful day.
Well, the mood is extremely divided, Padma. On one hand, you have the AIADMK that seems to have been infused with this new zest of life in view of Shashikala being anointed as the legislature party chief. They at least are appearing to put up a happy face, saying that they are happy that there is one leader who will be taking charge of not just the party, but the Tamil Nadu government as well, a format that the AIADMK has gotten extremely comfortable with. But on the other hand, on the streets of Chennai, when we did interact with people, interestingly, many of the local population did not want to react on record, as they feared that they might be cornered, even if they gave a one-sentence statement as to how they feel, if it was in the negative or, against Shashikala in this case. So definitely the sentiment is divided. Those who are hardcore supporters of Jayalalitha, not very happy with this move of bringing in Shashikala, a person who has absolutely no administrative experience. She has never held office, and as long as Jayalalitha was alive, she was never allowed to come in the forefront. She was always someone in the background. So now suddenly to portray her as someone who was mentored by Jayalalitha is not really being accepted too well among a good section of the population.
Right.
All right. Thank you so much. There are our correspondents giving us ground updates. Let's now go to Dr. Tharoor. Thank you again for your perspective. What I wanted to ask you is this something that we only see typically in India, these type of dynasties, or is this something that we can also infer from other parts of the world? Is this a common trend maybe in certain parts of the world, maybe an international viewpoint with regards to political dynasties? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, look, it's pretty widespread around the world. In fact, in our subcontinent, it's rather common, because we saw in Sri Lanka Mr. Bandaranaike being succeeded by his widow, Srimava Bandaranaike, she by her daughter, Chandrika Kumaratunga. In Bangladesh, we've seen two widows battle for the top honors in the politics of that country, with Sheikh Hasina and Begum Khalida. In Pakistan, you've seen Benazir Bhutto succeeding Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. So there's no shortage of dynasty in the subcontinent. Even Aung San Suu Kyi in Myanmar is the daughter of their nationalist hero Aung San. In Philippines, we've seen the Aquino family producing not one but three presidential contenders. One was assassinated, the other two actually ruled as president, his widow and son. And of course, in the developed world, you've got the examples of people like the Clintons and the Bushes, and before them, the Kennedys. I think it's partly that name recognition goes a long way, and sometimes voters like to honor the memory of a politician they liked by supporting a blood relative. It doesn't even have to be just blood, as I mentioned with Mrs. MGR's initial ascent. In Guyana, for example, when the popular nationalist hero Chedi Jagan died, his widow, who was actually a white American Jewish woman, neither black nor Asian nor Indian, as was the population of Guyana, she got elected president. So these things happen. Luster rubs off. It's not uncommon around the world.
All right. Thank you so much for your perspective. We appreciate your time. All right, now let's go back to our guest in the studio, Padma. I know we have a lot to discuss. Unfortunately, not as much time. I'm going to hand it over to you now to sort of wrap this up.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, for joining us. And I go back to Dr. Quraishi, who's with us in the studio. Dr. Quraishi, is this, what we're talking about? Dr. Tharoor saying that this is how it is all over the world, and it's been like this in India, and we've, named various examples. The longest list, of course, comes from the Congress party, as expected. But is this a perfect situation, Dr. Quraishi, or is there something that can be improved upon? I mean, yes, there is the situation in many countries where emotion and sentiment play a greater role in times like this. But is this a perfect situation?
I would first like to comment on your initial statement when you said whether it is an Indian phenomenon. And Shashi has very clearly pointed out that not only in Asia, but even in America and in other countries, such a thing happens. You talked of emotions and sentiment. We find that somehow there is a charisma about some personalities and some dynasties, which is why in many European countries you still have monarchy. Even the British somehow would tolerate anything, but they don't want to do away with monarchy. So that charisma is there, and people seem to like it, and the people are supreme. And whether this is an ideal situation or not, the fact that it has worked well, it provides for political stability, it provides for a smooth transition of power. Otherwise, after, for instance, Indira Gandhi, as I mentioned, suddenly there could have been chaos. So that smooth changeover was possible because of the constitutional provision. I think there is hardly any need to tinker with it, but it will be interesting to debate whether even this 6 months of an interim period where any havoc could be possible, whether it could be reduced to 3 months or something, or some other way could be found out, can be debated. But I think now the topic has arisen. Maybe it will generate some debate for some time.
What about in the history of our own country, and with your vast experience as election commissioner, have you encountered situations where the question has been raised when there have bin such successions anywhere in India? Well,
this question is raised all the time, and people seem to look down upon it. But as Shashi was mentioning, and as every politician mentions in the defense, that every profession has an advantage, because the children of a bureaucrat or a businessman or a lawyer have a tendency to follow the same profession, because number one, that is what they have lived with, they have grown up with. That also gives them advantage. And secondly, that experience actually should make them better politicians, because politics is in their blood. Therefore, some of them prove to be better than the other. In fact, when you see UP, for instance, now Akhilesh has been doing better than his father Mulayam Singh, which is why suddenly there was a spurt of support in his favor. Ultimately, people decide, and I'm against any regulations and too much of law to restrict that. People's will is supreme, and let them decide. And if they have been deciding for dynasty, now you mentioned Congress, which has been mentioned maximum. You'll recall when we had a non-dynastic party president, Narasimha Rao or Sitaram Kesari, Congress was going downhill. It was saved by the dynasty. Therefore, to blame the dynasty, or any dynasty for that matter, I don't think it's very fair.
So we'll just leave it at the fact that we have a tendency, perhaps an innate tendency, as indeed the world does, as you pointed out, and as Dr. Shashi Tharoor pointed out. Dr. Quraishi, I'm delighted to have you in the studio, have had you this evening as a guest. Please do join us in future and keep watching WION. Thank you very much.
We appreciate your time. And with that note, we're going to take a quick short break and continue this conversation for the next 90 minutes with regards to what is happening in Tamil Nadu and with political dynasties. Stay with us right here. Welcome back to WION. I'm Archit Seshadri. Thanks so much for joining us as we continue the conversation about what is shaping out in Tamil Nadu in terms of politics. We're going to first go to our correspondent Nishita Varandra, who spoke to AIADMK leader Apsara Reddy to get a flavor of what the mood is like in Chennai now. Let's listen in.
The argument being put forth that she has absolutely no administrative experience, she's never held office, she has never contested in elections, she's never had an AIADMK post as well. What do you have to say about that?
I think 33 long years of mentoring from Purachitalevi Amma is, I think, outweighs every sort of administrative experience you can gain, because she's lived with Amma, she's observed government, she's been to multiple meetings, she's been part of leadership conclaves, and I think Chinnamma is very well equipped to take the state forward because she has good intention, she has the knowledge, and she has the spirit to take the state forward.
Okay, also several political analysts have gone on record to predict that this will completely decimate AIADMK in 4 years, and during the next elections the AIADMK will not be able to recover from that. Your response to that?
A lot of political analysts said we won't come to power also in 2016, but we did storm back to power.
We now go to Kalyani Shankar. She's a political commentator and a senior journalist. Thank you so much, Kalyani, for joining us this evening. We continue to discuss the events in Tamil Nadu and, the whole question of dynastic succession, whether friends and families become or succeed leaders easier in our country than elsewhere. We're currently examining India. Kalyani, what do you make of the events in Tamil Nadu? There is now the niece of Jayalalitha, Deepa, coming out, so to speak, out of the woodwork, and there is, of course, Shashikala, who has, been elevated to the position vacated by the late Jayalalitha.
Well, I think it's a fraud on democracy. You see, we are trying to make use of, just because of some sympathy factor or something like that, dynastic rule has been approved by the people of India quite often. But then now, Shashikala is not even a blood relation of Jayalalitha. And it doesn't mean that just because she is a blood relation, she should get it. That's also not there. Doctors, supposing a doctor dies, the son who is not a doctor cannot become a doctor. There are certain things you have to go through. But, somehow or other, she has been very clever. She has been moving like a chess pawn, one after the other. First, she tested the water, whether she would be acceptable as the general secretary of the party, right, which she did. She got in, and then now, within 2 months, now she has deposed Paneerselvam, who was getting closer to the BJP, and he was feeling comfortable with the BJP. The BJP also was comfortable with him. So I believe that BJP is not very happy that Shashikala has taken over now. She will take over now. Right. So, but it's not as if that Shashikala doesn't have challenges. Yes. She has many, many challenges.
Yes, but on the other hand, Kalyani, we also have the niece, Deepa, Miss Deepa, who, one might ask, depending on which side of the spectrum you are on, as to why relatives and people who have not been seen before on the political firmament with Miss Jayalalitha, why they are now coming to the fore all of a sudden. Whereas, those who support Shashikala may well argue that she, on her part, has been very much visible and very much by the side of the late Miss Jayalalitha all through these years.
Well, you see, Shashikala, you might have noticed today when she came to the balcony, Jayalalitha always used to wave from her balcony in her home also, Boys Garden house also. So the balcony audience, she did the same way Jayalalitha would have done. She wore the same color Jayalalitha was wearing. She was trying to imitate her in every possible way. She was sitting in the front seat of the car, which Jayalalitha used to do. By imitating somebody, you don't become somebody. That's a problem. The same way, Deepa definitely looks like Jayalalitha. And when Jayalalitha was very young, she has a facial resemblance, definitely. So that doesn't mean that she would become Jayalalitha. In politics and to govern a state, you need many other qualities. And we must look for those qualities. And unfortunately for Paneer Selvam, he reminds me of Nedunjirian, who was in the ADMK earlier. Every time the chief minister dies, he used to be the interim chief minister, but he never did become a chief minister at all. So that is how the fate of Paneer Selvam also. I agree with you, this is the fraud on democracy by bringing people just because they were in the household or because they resemble somebody or because from the family, because from the dynasty. These things, I think, democracy is not meant for this kind of thing,
Right. Thank you. Thanks, Kalyani. Please do stay with us. I'm going to hand you over now to, or rather the show, to my colleague Archit, and we're going across to the studio, to our newsroom.
Continuing this conversation, lots to discuss. We only have a little bit of time, but lots to get out. So let's now go straight to our newsroom, where we're joined live by Surya Gangadharan. He is a senior editor here at WION, who's had a lot of experience talking about politics and covering that. So Surya, let me ask you with regards to this. When we see these type of dynasties, these political successions, is this specifically to southern India, South India, the states of Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh, or is this something more bigger than just that region? Talk to us a little bit about that perspective of the story.
No, I think the point is that there are dynasties all around us. Not far from Delhi, in Lucknow, we had the site of Akhilesh Yadav and his father feuding for months. And then further north in J&K, you have Mehbooba Mufti, who succeeded her father as chief minister. So there are dynasties all over India. And to say that this is purely a Tamil Nadu phenomenon or something linked only to southern India, I think would be incorrect. We also have Uddhav Thackeray in Maharashtra succeeding his father as head of the Shiv Sena. So it's all over the place. And I understand even in West Bengal, the chief minister there is favoring her own nephew. So there are some familial things here that, perhaps you could say they are very Indian. And in that sense, Tamil Nadu cannot be picked up and kind of isolated in that sense.
And Surya, to continue that discussion, we talked about this earlier with one of our guests in terms of both of Deepa, the niece, as well as Shashikala, a friend of Jayalalitha. Is there a vacuum that's now sort of going to emerge in Tamil Nadu politics, even with the other opposition, sort of a new entrance coming? Could this be the time when maybe new political parties form as the political shuffle happens in Tamil Nadu?
But it would seem that there is a vacuum that has emerged with Jayalalitha's death. And the fact that now on a day like this, you have so many players, you have Deepa coming out of the woodwork, you have Shashikala Pushpa also giving out and coming out with a press conference. So there is an indication that Tamil Nadu politics is in a state of flux. And perhaps the people who are now vociferously supporting Shashikala and Natarajan, maybe a few years down the road, there could be a different scenario altogether. And I'm sure that there are other parties there which could come up. Perhaps some of the parties not so far seen in Tamil Nadu, maybe even the BJP, could sense an opportunity to move in there. Archit?
All right. Thank you so much, Surya, for those thoughts and perspective. We appreciate your time. Padma, I'm going to hand it back over to you now.
Sure. And I'm going to head straight back to Kalyani Shankar, senior journalist and political commentator who's still with us on the show. Kalyani, what do you make of the international phenomenon? I mean, there are so many international political dynasties as well. There is Jean-Marie Le Pen, who founded the extreme right-wing party in France, whose daughter is now, naturally seen as the party president, and she's also the presidential candidate. Then there is, of course, Kim Jong-il in North Korea, and there are, a raft of such politicians around the world. So surely this is not something peculiar to Tamil Nadu or even peculiar to India.
Benazir Bhutto, or in the neighboring Bangladesh, you have this Sheikh Hasina and Khalida Zia. And there are so many, and in Sri Lanka, you have this Chandrika Kumaratunga, Bandaranaike case. And all around South Asia, it has become a common thing. And Indira Gandhi, Nehru, Indira Gandhi. So it's become, and then of course Rajiv Gandhi, and now Sonia Gandhi, then Rahul Gandhi. So the dynastic thing is there. And even in America, if you look at it, yes. Bush family, they have been there. Kennedy yes. family, they had been the dynastic. In fact, Clinton also, many people were against Hillary Clinton because they thought it was sort of confirming the dynasty. So that's one view which I have heard from America. So the dynastic thing is there all over. but not in this blatant way. It's not even dynasty, you see. I mean, Shashikala doesn't belong to the dynasty. She's not a blood relation, as I said earlier. In fact, they come from the different castes. You know, Shashikala is a Brahmin. Jayalalitha is a Brahmin, Kannadiga Brahmin. Shashikala is a Tevar. It's a backward caste. So it's not as that they are blood relation also.
Right. Kalyani, just to you know, expand on that argument, after all, you know, there are people who say that Miss Shashikala may not be a blood relation, but she has been very visible and on the political firmament by Miss Jayalalitha's side all through these decades, whereas the others, the blood relations, haven't really been on the scene and haven't played much of a political role. So, I mean, surely there is some fairness to that argument.
Well, I don't believe that, because Shashikala was never used for political reasons by Jayalalitha at any point of time. She never even gave her an official position in the party or in the government. She could have easily made her at least a Rajya Sabha member, whereas she did that to her nephew, Dinakaran. He became the Rajya Sabha member. She had not promoted her in any way other than being a friend or sister or whatever you call her. So that beyond that, she did not visualize a role for her. Otherwise, she could have easily made her anything. So that's one point which I don't agree with it. And also, second thing, she was not politically visible. She was just, you know, like supposing somebody goes there, from the family, not from the family, from the house, somebody comes to help them. She was like that, and she was never more than that. So therefore, I don't agree with this view that she was politically there for any reason. She had never used her as a political emissary or as anything in political. So she could have easily nominated her as a political heir. She didn't do that. I don't think she visualized that she would take over also.
All right, thank you so much, Kalyani. We'll check in with you later on. But for right now, we're going to give you a little bit of a background and perspective on who exactly is Shashikala. We keep talking about the family versus friend angle to the story, so let's sort of break that angle for you. Blamed once for Jayalalitha's disastrous election loss more than 20 years ago, back in the year 1996, 60-year-old Shashikala Natarajan, well, she was always considered having a clout with the AIA-DMK party. She was at one point a video library owner before she got close to Tamil Nadu's late Chief Minister J. Jayalalitha. Her roller coaster career saw her being expelled for anti-party activities, only to be restored within a few months. Now, 5 years ago, here's much more on her journey as she assumes the role of Tamil Nadu's third Chief Minister.
From Amma to Chinnamma. For a woman who stayed in the shadows of Jayalalitha or Amma, Sasikala Natarajan has come into her own. Chinnamma or Junior Amma, who took over as General Secretary of the AIA-DMK in December, will now take the oath as Chief Minister. In her lifetime, Jayalalitha never allowed Sasikala any role in the state administration. Nor did she ever refer to Sasikala as a political heir, although she was allowed a say in party affairs. She has removed trusted Jayalalitha aides now to bring in her own team. So just who is Sasikala Natarajan? She was in the business of shooting wedding and event videos. She met Jayalalitha in the 1980s when she was a propaganda secretary of the AIA-DMK. She shot all of her event videos and developed great rapport with her. Moved into Jayalalitha's home in 1989. Jayalalitha had expelled her twice from the party and her residence, but patched up soon after. But as she becomes Chief Minister, it remains to be seen if Chinnamma can replicate the magic of Amma for the benefit of the party and, of course, the public. With Bureau Inputs, Sarah Khan for WION.
And with that, we're going to take a quick break and continue this conversation. What is happening with the political turmoil in the state of Tamil Nadu? Stay right with us. Welcome back. We're continuing the discussion here on WION about political dynasties and what happens not just here in South Asia but around the globe. Let's now bring in our guest back into the conversation, Ms. Kalyani Shankar. Thank you so much for joining us. At this point, what I wanted to talk to you about was with regards to the loyal fan following that many leaders in India, especially celebrities, film stars, typically continue going from the world of entertainment taking those fans into the political spectrum. But in this case, neither the friend or the the family member, Deepa, or Shashikala, the close confidant of Jayalalitha, seems to have that kind of a following. In fact, could this mean newer political parties could emerge with existing celebrities in the southern state?
Well, I am very doubtful about that because, I don't think that whether they will succeed at all because Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka and even to a certain extent Kerala, their people are film crazy. They worship their film stars. You might have noticed MGR came to power and then Annadurai was in films, Karunanidhi was in films, Vijaykanth, who is now floated a party, he was in films, and they are looking to Rajinikanth coming to politics. So they are looking to people who are film stars and they have their fan clubs. In fact, they had been able to convert their fan clubs into their voters. But in the case of Shashikala, she neither, for a leader, you need 2 or 3 qualities. At least one is a crowd puller. We don't know if she's a crowd puller. Second thing is converting that crowd into voting. I don't think whether she can do it or she cannot do it. We don't know. The third thing is sustaining. After becoming something to sustain it, whether she has that quality also, jury is still out. So we really do not know. And Deepa, of course, is really novice and she has not been, at least Shashikala had seen what politics is and sitting in the same house as Jayalalitha. Deepa has not done it, but Deepa has got some backers from outside. That's what I hear. Otherwise, she wouldn't have come forward. So as you rightly say, that without the film thing, it's very difficult to click in the southern India, particularly. Well, not that all film stars are becoming politicians. There are some who have failed. Even Vijaykanth, to a certain extent, had failed, although he got 10% vote when he launched the party. But after that, he has failed. There are other people who have failed also. But in the case of Jayalalitha, I told you this 3 qualities she doesn't have. She has no other experience also. But she has more than anything else. I had been to Chennai just 2 months ago, at the time of cyclone. People on the road, they don't like her. They think she's a scheming woman. They think that, there is some mystery about Jayalalitha's death also. They expect even the justice from the High Court, Vaidyanathan, he also said something about that. Whether she is involved or not, we don't know. But she has to change her image, first of all. The image makeover is what she must do immediately. Otherwise, she will have to win the hearts of the people of Tamil Nadu.
Right.
Jayalalitha won the hearts, but she has not been, I don't know whether she will be able to do that. So these are the problems. She has many, many challenges. Not only that, facing the opposition in the assembly. She has never gone to the assembly. Even a person like Jayalalitha was finding it very difficult to deal with the people in DMK and other parties.
Right.
So,
Right. Kalyani, I have a question for you. We have been discussing this all day, and people say that, have pointed out that Jayalalitha was a very educated lady. She spoke very well, although she didn't go to college. And she had, and that is one of the things that M.G. Ramachandran, her mentor, found, the most interesting and about Ms. Jayalalitha. Now, the contrast that is being made is that Shashikala came from a more modest background, and she was a video shopkeeper and a video shop owner and certain things like that. So would you say that there is an element, a strong element of casteism and classism when people point out the differences between the blood relatives of Ms. Jayalalitha, like Ms. Deepa and Ms. Shashikala?
Well, you see, Shashikala can't even converse in English. I don't know whether you noticed that she was, inaugurating the India Today Southern Conclave.
Yes, but Kalyani, how important is it? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but how important is it to be able to converse in English for the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu in a state that prides itself on its undoubtedly beautiful language?
Well, it is very important to know as many languages as possible. And people who did not know, a man like NTR, who was like God to people of Andhra Pradesh, he started learning Hindi because he was planning to move to North India also and to start is what we call Bharata Desam. So it's very important for any leader to learn as many languages, because communication is most important for a leader. And wherever he goes, if he speaks in that language, and it is very good. You might have noticed that all these top leaders, prime ministers, when they visit a Gujarat or when they visit to some other state, they try to learn at least one thing to say, hello, how are you, kind of thing. So this language is very important, and at least you should try and learn English, and if not any other language. So it's very, very important, I mean, otherwise, of course, if you go look at it, Russia, German or other people, they need an interpreter. And even Prime Minister Modi, when he meets the leaders of the other countries, he speaks in Hindi and it is the interpreter is there. It's not a must, but then it always is an advantage. As far as Jayalalitha is concerned, she knew Telugu, she knew Malayalam, she knew Tamil, she knew Hindi.
Right.
She was very good in all these languages.
All right. Thank you so much, Kalyani Shankar. We appreciate your perspective and giving us thoughts with regards to this very interesting topic. Of course, over the next 60 minutes, we're going to still continue this and get ground reports from Chennai with Ramesh Ramachandran and Nishchita Virandra, as well as our international correspondents Mandy Clark and Taha Siddiqui, plus a whole lineup of guests. Stay with us right here on WION. Time for a quick short break.